the franchise are the only ones that get the certificate. So is that verbiage clear enough that says that it's, because we refer to as tour guide applicants versus tour guide franchisee? I just want to make sure the definition didn't change on me.
If I understand your question, this is an ongoing process. If they change who is doing the step-on guiding, that new person will have to get a certificate before they step on, even though the franchise may be already accredited. So, I think the way they operate right now, they have sometimes, or in the past at least, have had multiple people that led the tours. It isn't the same person that's there every day. If they're sick, they've got an alternate. But each person will have to have their own individual certificate saying that they've been through the training at Transit so that they know not to push one business either up or down or whatever other rules that Transit may enforce on them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we have van tours and the like, and the city is not subsidizing van tours, I'm just, in these, like I said, in these fragile financial times, I'm having a hard time finding that we should subsidize this business. I mean, they've had a long and successful run, and we've subsidized that. I don't think this city can afford to continue to subsidize group tour franchises. That's just my opinion, and I only have one vote. And thank you for letting me share it.
Mr. DeVito.
Well, I've not received any notification from the transit director that the trams are in jeopardy at this point in time. I mean,
Just the one down, the two that are operational. Mr. Weaver, you had your hand up.
I would caution the alderman from using the word subsidize. I think that the scheme of the history of this system was set up to not subsidize someone, but it was a plan that was came up with 18, 20 years ago to try to keep heavy buses that were too long to make the turns and tearing up the roads from being on the historic loop. And this is a scheme to further that goal of not having buses nose to nose coming down the historic loop and hanging up. So the history of at least of the passage of this is not to subsidize anybody, but to bring a cessation of damage to city streets and the possibility of traffic jams where buses get hung on those corners and can't get around them.
Any further? Mr. Pownell.
The guidelines bother me, and it brings up memories of Historic District Commission guidelines. I'd like to see them either put in as an appendix to the ordinance or referred to make them more enforceable, that they aren't just changed at the drop of a hat.
Mr. DeVito.
I think he's referring to the seminars. Is that correct?
No, I'm talking about the guidelines that the franchise holder has to follow are not referenced other than as, if I can find it. Talks about compliance on 4.20.05 on page 2. And those aren't referenced the same way that they were written and passed out at the workshop. I don't see a clear and guiding path to telling the franchise holder what the the rules that may be one thing today, and 2 weeks from now they may be something else.
Mr. DeVito?
Question for the city attorney. Isn't that in relationship to the body of the rules that are put down in this agreement?
Well, it is both. It is the rules that are here, but it also would be allowed the transit to enact rules, which the transit has enacted rules, particularly about the tour guides. But that's a very common element of a lot of pieces of legislation, and particularly legislation that is adopted in state and federal legislatures, where trying to eke out every minor detail becomes too cumbersome upon the body here, and needs to be addressed more on a day-to-day basis with the particular department. And so that's why we had the Federal Code of Regulations, which is hundreds of volumes on the federal level, is because the feds don't choose to allow the legislature to get in each minor detail. And you have a check on that, because if they promulgate some rule and the franchise doesn't feel that they should have to follow that rule, or feels like it's too invasive, if they don't follow that and they get a notice that they are being revoked, that revocation then is brought back to this table. So you act as a checking body if the rules are changed to the point that they impinge upon the franchisee's rights or otherwise create an situation that can't be maintained. You are the check. It comes back to you or to this table ultimately if the rules become too onerous.
Anybody else? Yes.
Could the guidelines? I'd like to request that the current franchise holder just either placate me or explain any problems in the past that having the guidelines is not part of the franchise agreement, because in those guidelines is where it sets the price for tickets, who can and can't ride for free possibly, spells out all the things that he has to do on a daily basis as far as what he's doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure I really understood. What I did understand, if I understood it correctly, and I think I did not, but is there has not been any issues in the 17 years this has existed, these franchises have existed, that there's ever been a problem that hasn't been handled agreeably with any of the franchise holders and the city transit department. Is that what you're asking?
I'm just concerned with your guy shows up one day for work, or whoever's guy shows up for work one day, and they're told the tickets are now for adults are $10, and the guidelines that are written as of this date says 15. Are we covered? Is the franchise holder got a way out? Or?
Well, I mean, certainly it could be concerning if there isn't a good working relationship, that transit could, impose some kind of new requirement or rule that we weren't aware of and that we might not feel like we could live up to, or that it was a ridiculous rule to try to do, which, like Mr. Weaver said, then at that point, unfortunately, if it came to a revocation, then we'd have to approach, we would have to contest it and come before this board again. But, I mean, nothing like that's even come close in 17 years. I'm not anticipating anything like that, and I'm certainly hoping that there's something like that.
Mr. DeVito.
And to expand on what Mr. Gunnell said, we've had 17 years of practice at this we can craft the best laws we can, but it's the real world will determine what the inefficiencies in the law that we craft. So, we haven't had any problems in all these years, and I say we pass this ordinance as written, and if something crops up, a year down the road, then we'll address it at that time. I don't think we can foresee every possible event that could occur. So, the real world is what determines how good the law was written. But I think we've got a good piece of legislation here, and I think we should go ahead with it.
I agree. Okay. Did we have a motion on the table already?
James did motion to. Mr. DeVito did motion to approve on the first reading, and I did not hear who seconded.
Yeah, done.
Thank you.
Okay. It's read on the first reading.
So now we need to vote.
Any other questions before we jump in this? Okay. Let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Pownall,
Yes.
Ms. Balance,
No.
Dr. Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Mr. Raphael,
Yes.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
4 yeses, 1 no.
Mr. DeVito?
I move to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2146 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
As amended.
Motion to read by second.
As amended.
Read and approve by second title only.
Suspend the rules and read
Suspend
by
the rules.
title.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have to do this.
Okay. We'll go back to another roll call.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Did we make any changes during the reading, after the reading?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think we're good to go. We took care of all those before.
Dr. Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Mr. Pownall,
Yes.
Mr. Raphael,
Yes.
Ms. Balance,
No.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
4 yeses, 1 no.
This should take care of it, shouldn't it?
You need to read it and then read it by
How about a
title
time? Okay.
Ordinance 2146, an ordinance regulating group tour franchises.
Can we do a roll call on it, or just a voice vote on this one,
only.
can
You need a motion to approve.
we? Okay.
Or, yeah.
Mr.
I
DeVito?
move to approve ordinance number 2146 on its second reading.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
4-1. Mr. DeVito?
I move to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2146 on its third reading by title only.
Second.
Made and seconded. We will call this one.
Ms. Balance,
No.
Mr. Pownall,
Yes.
Mr. Raphael,
Yes.
Dr. Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
4-1.
Mr. DeVito?
I move to approve ordinance number 2146 on its third reading.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
Go ahead.
Under 4.20.01, the following words, terms, and phrases, when used in, needs to be stricken. When used here and after. Okay. The other place I saw was in Section 3, the very last page. Section 3, severability. In the event anyone or more, anyone should be 2 words. Okay. And just a quick question. I guess if I may direct this at the city attorney.
Yes, ma'am, you may.
When we look at 4.20.02, grant of authority, and we look at the last next to last sentence, no person may be the sole holder of more than one franchise. What if a person is in a partnership or a corporation? This says no person may be the sole holder. Well, what if a person holds more than one, but they're not the sole holder? Does that make any sense?
Should be the designated agent for the franchise on the paperwork.
No person may be the sole holder of more than one franchise. What if one person has a partner and then a different partner for a different one? I'm just wondering.
You could change the wording if you're really worried about that to indicate that they can not be the hold an interest in more than one franchise. But the word person in that instance would be defined by state law to mean no partnership of its own, no sole individual, or no corporation, because person has been defined by law to include corporations and partnerships.
Hate that. So how about no entity may be the sole holder? I don't know.
Person has been used
Person
instead in
works.
place of it.
Okay, just asking
Yeah.
for your opinion. Thank you.
Any further? Okay. You have a motion on the table?
If you really want to strike your word and split the two words, you need to make a motion to do that, to amend it, to do those two things.
Okay, I will amend the motion to strike the word in from 420.01 as it follows used. Strike the word in as it follows used. And furthermore, in section 3, to split the word anyone into any one.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
All right. More discussion? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Again, motion to make the grammatical changes. Would that be a fair assessment on your motion? Okay. It's made and seconded. This doesn't have to be a roll call, but this will be handled by voice vote. Is that correct? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried on the grammatical changes. All right. We have a third one. We have a preceding motion.
Do we need to change that to as amended?
Probably should,
Okay.
just to be.
So moved.
Second.
The original motion will include the amended motion on the grammatical changes, and we reflect that in the minutes. And we will do a roll call vote on the final reading.
Mr. Raphael?
Yes.
Mr. Pownell?
Yes.
Ms. Balance?
No.
Dr. Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito? 4-1.
Okay. Any further? Any comments by the council? Mr. Weaver?
I neglected to add on here an emergency clause. If you truly want this to take effect immediately, you need to add an emergency clause. I have some proposed language for one of those, which I would be glad to provide you either to look at or read to you. But otherwise, this will take effect 30 days after publication, and there will be a gap between.
30 days after publication? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if that will cause any problems? I don't think anybody has any tours booked for that period of time. Would it be acceptable to just let it go for the 30 days, or do we really, really need to do this?
My suggestion would be to go ahead and do it if possible, because I think it would leave no possibility of a problem arising during that time period, and also it could allow applicants to begin to apply to be approved for this, because when this ceases, the current franchises cease on the 21st, and we're going to have a period where you're going to have to approve your new franchise or franchises. And so if they're going to need to make application, you want to get them before the council as quickly as possible so we're not awarding a franchise in March or April.
Can it not be passed with a full vote of the council in lieu of the emergency clause and go into immediate effect?
No, it needs an emergency clause to
okay.
go into effect at this point.
Mr. Fennell?
I make a motion we take a 10-minute recess for the city attorney and the city clerk to type up a proposed emergency clause so we can review it and act on it.
Done. Second? Done. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council to be back in session. Mr. DeVito, you had your hand
I
up.
would move to read the emergency clause.
Second.
Made and seconded to add the emergency clause to the ordinance 2146. I guess we probably need a roll call on this one since it's in addition to or amending a standing ordinance. I've seen it. No. Move the peripheral out of the way.
Mr. DeVito,
Yes.
Dr. Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Ms. Balance,
No.
Mr. Pownell,
Yes.
Mr. Raphael,
Yes.
Okay. We need to read the clause. Emergency clause.
Emergency Clause, Section 4, that to protect the health, safety, and financial welfare of the city of Eureka Springs and its citizens, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be effective upon its passage and approval.
Good. Should too.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Merry Christmas. And I'll see you again. Well, I'll see you Tuesday or Monday.
Did you get my dates?
Whichever one.